You're listening to Lyfe and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal.
What's up, baby?
I forgot to turn my phone on.
Oh, is that a requirement?
Glad you see it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to get a phone call. It's funny because I got a phone call the other day, and whenever you get, if you don't turn your phone off, you get charged $100.
What?
So I owe $100.
Oh.
Yeah, for having my phone ring.
Damn, that's crazy. that's a one you don't forget.
Yeah, exactly.
A costly mistake.
Exactly.
We got a guest in the house.
We got a special guest in the house. My man Carlos McCray is in the building. How you feeling today?
Loving life, you
That's
know?
what I'm talking about. Carlos, aka Smiles, for those that know him very well. He's known as Smiles as well. But Carlos is I've never heard this before, and you know, as we talk about this, I hope that you have the opportunity to explain it. Social work entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Right, that's what the people call him.
I love it.
So Carlos is entrepreneur. He's also a professor, specifically in the social work world. He works at two different schools. Works at San Diego State University. Also working at Cuyamaca College. We're going to talk about a class that he built today.
Created.
We also going to talk about all the different businesses that he's created, sold, nonprofits. Like the dude is busy. You know what I mean? Super busy and like professor, not teacher, professor. You know, so we got school coming up real soon. So professor. You know, don't judge us on our grammar today. You know, because we're going to be very authentic.
Oh, I love it.
And the conversation is going to be very interesting. Daneyel got the opening question for us.
So if either of you ever had so much coffee that you had bubble guts?
Yes.
You know the bubble guts where you're just like, oh. You say yes, right? You say yes fast. After how many cups?
You know, funny story, when you open a coffee shop, I don't know if this happened to y'all, but when I was learning how to make espresso shots, the dude was like, hey, you got to try every shot. Well, I'm already hypersensitive. First of all, I have way too much energy as it is. And so that first day, I was taking sips, shots, and next thing you know, I was like, oh, it's a porta potty open. I was like, is this what it's going to be like working here every day? I don't know if I could do this, you know?
And it's instant. So yes. So we both yes. Uh-huh. It's instant for me. It's like you drink, and it's funny because they say when you drink coffee, it helps with like weight loss and cleansing and all kinds of stuff. So it works 1,000%.
Yeah,
clears you all the way out.
Yes. All the way.
How about you?
No, I don't think so. No. Yes.
I'm a lady. I don't answer questions like that.
I was like, I thought this was supposed to be authentic.
Coffee
no bubbling in the guts. I just gotta go
right now.
Yeah, immediately.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how many times in the morning it was like, you have your normal, and then you drink coffee, and then you go again.
Right.
Yeah, but that's only if I do like espresso shots or if it's just like straight up coffee. But you know, if I get if I have one latte, or you know, I'm good. Especially if I have oat milk. Because I think it's got a lot to do with the milk too. If you have lattes, then right?
Yeah.
For me, it don't matter. It don't matter. Yeah, we was talking pre-show. Carlos actually names his.
Frank. You know what I'm saying? What's happening, Frank? You back?
I was like, yo, that's how serious it is. It's like that motherfucker is familiar.
Frequently.
Oh man. Yeah, no worries. So again, you know, Carlos alluded to, you know, when he opened up a coffee shop. So, you know, former owner of the Dojo Cafe. Yes. For those that are familiar with San Diego, that's actually how me and Carlos connected. I was doing local roots, and you know, we had our cafe at the same time. And the cool thing about San Diego is whenever people are in the same industry, like you have to connect and work together and network, right?
Oh, it's so small.
Yeah, and especially when it's minority owned businesses. So when it comes into you got you black owned, Mexican owned, no matter what, and we're in the same industry, we're gonna link up.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was first of all, the Dojo Cafe just sounds cool.
It
as
is
hell,
very
right?
cool. It sounds like it was. Yes,
and so we went over, and that was the first time I had a Vietnamese cold brew. Was at the dojo.
Oh, dangerous.
Yeah, and then right after that, me and Carlos, we really hit it off. And then I was like, bro, you got to be on my show, Local Roots. So this is the second time,
that's right.
like we're hanging out like this, and now we're on a podcast. So Daneyel is, she. I ain't calling her nosy, but she's very inquisitive.
And so are our listeners. So
Yes.
people are going to want to know, are you single and ready to mingle, or are you locked down?
No, I'm locked down.
Okay.
I'm locked down.
You got
yeah.
kids, married, or just...
Well, so that's a funny story.
Okay. It's complicated.
So, yeah, my ex-wife has 2 kids, which I consider my own.
Okay.
And then my
cool.
current partner, she has a 6-year-old. And so I got 3 kids and no baby mamas.
Oh, that's a nice way.
Hold up.
I like that.
Hold up. We go. I just want to make sure the people heard that. Because not only do I respect that,
Heck yeah.
but it's also unheard of.
Right. It's like you divorce kids, you divorce the mom, you divorce kids.
Yeah.
That's what happens if they're not yours.
And that's always the fear, right? It's like, because we had a conversation with somebody the other day. It's like, just because you're not married to my mom no more now, me and you are not cool.
Yeah,
Right.
But now you're like, no, fuck that. Like, I spent time with these kids. These are my kids.
It's real talk. Yeah.
That's dope.
And it takes some convincing, because everybody's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, like, especially, little man Caleb was less than 2 when I met him, and he's 8 now. So it's like, Chloe, she was 4 or 5, and now she's 12. Like, I can't. I'm adopted, so I got this thing like, nah, you just can't leave, no child left behind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So not everybody agrees with the philosophy, but that's their problem. That's not my problem.
That's respect.
No, I mean,
respect.
but if you, and it's funny that you say people don't agree, because if you look at, there's an absence of a male figure there, and if I got to do like Carlos in my life, then professor, entrepreneur, like why wouldn't you? Like why would you try and convince me not?
Right. Well, I can see probably people that love him and his family. They probably don't want him to share that space, they probably feel like that person is taking advantage because they no longer have him, but the children now still have that great role model that he is. Right. I'm sure he helps out in other ways as well, and I'm sure family is kind of the ones that's like. I'm just saying.
Yeah, friends and family. But the people that know me understand. They're like, well, you hard headed. You're gonna do it. Like if those are your principles, you're gonna follow your principles.
Yeah, but when it's for the kids and it's really about the kids, that's all that matters in the long run. And
sure.
Those children will definitely, they'll remember you when you get older.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Occupation. We already kind of alluded to like what you do, but if you wanted to kind of elaborate a little more.
Yeah, I mean, so I really wanted to be a general contractor. I love working with my hands. But that never, my parents weren't handy for nothing, and so you got to go to school, this and that, and then I kind of fell into social work, really, while serving some customers when I was working at Red Lobster. This guy stayed at my table, and what I found out was one of his employees for like 3 hours. I'm like, man, I ain't gonna make no money at this table. You know what I'm saying? But I got a job out of it, So really,
You made more money.
Yeah. So I was mentoring, finding mentors for children who had either one or both parents in prison, and that was my first entry into social work without even knowing that's what I was doing, right? And I remember my first home visit was to this trailer park that I never knew existed, specifically over kind of like by the Four Corners.
Okay.
And so I went off back there, and I was like, yo, it's off in the cut, And I remember going to this trailer, and the 2 families lived in this little trailer, and they had this one little boy was in there, and I was like, yo, these are cramped quarters, And I was talking to them about their life experiences, what their situation was. And I was like, oh, man, there's like a whole nother world to San Diego that I hadn't quite experience. You know how San Diego it is.
Yeah.
You know, you could be in, it's like South Park now, right? You got all these $1 million homes,
And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you go right around the corner and you like, hold up.
You know, you got
$1 million homes right around the corner.
Right,
Yep.
right. But controlled by, you know, Lomas 26, the little Sherman and all that. And but people don't understand how the dynamic. And so that really, I fell in love with social work before I knew what it was at that time, because I ended up mentoring like 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
It took them to the beach for their first time, took them to the movies for their first.
Wow.
Movies are expensive. 7 kids. I remember I got that. I said, oh, no wonder why they ain't been to the movies. This is a lot of money.
Why bootlegs?
You know. So I basically did that and then just jumped from nonprofit to nonprofit. I got my qualms with how traditional nonprofits are run and just the whole business model of the not business, right? And so I was like, but I always loved entrepreneurship. And so me and my nephew, we used to sell fake Nike SB Dunks on eBay back in like 06.
Are you serious?
Oh, we made a killing, right? But customs, you know, they got a hold of our shipment twice. They sent us a real nasty letter with a big fine attached. We was like, oh. I wish, me and my nephew talk about it all the time. That was in 06, right? eBay, it was just, man, we'd be tycoons right now.
Yeah, for
Because
real.
we were killing it. I'm telling you, we were killing it selling them fake Nikes. Ordering it from China.
So wait, you started off by saying general contractor. Like
Yeah.
what made neither one of your parents were handy. So how did you even
That's probably
get into
why.
that?
Because everything was broken.
You had to fix it up?
Yeah, everything. I was tired of things being broke.
Like, Dad, who's gonna fix this? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, right. My mom, their motto was, if it ain't broke, why fix it? I'm like, but it is broken though. They're like, no, the screen door shuts like barely.
But
you know,
it works better if it's fixed.
Yes.
But you know, that's our culture though.
Yeah.
Unless your dad is like super handy, everything stays the way it does.
Yeah, that's
just-
true.
My
That is
dad
very
always
true.
had, like, that was my dad because he's the same way. He's not very handy till this day, still not very handy. And his thing is, it's all right, let the landlord handle it. He's like, that was always his thing.
Yeah.
Until he became a homeowner. He's like,
Right.
shit.
yeah. Then it gets way worse, right?
Then it's like, I am the one.
Yeah, exactly.
And the first organization that you worked for that helped, it helped kids whose parents had either a mother or a father that was in jail. Is that, what was the name of that?
Y Friends through the YMCA.
Okay,
You know, and
okay.
it had a little Z at the end of Friends to be hip, I guess. I don't know.
very
But it
cool.
worked.
Do it for the culture.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
Y Friends.
And so what do you do for recreation? What do you do for fun?
Oh man, I have a philosophy: say yes before I say no. So I try to.
Okay.
That's my fun, right? I played it basically every sport, roller hockey, flag football. My parents wouldn't let me play violent stuff. Thank goodness. Even though I got 4 herniated discs, so I guess it didn't work.
Yikes.
But soccer.
Or it could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been. So I still play soccer on the weekends. Beach volleyball has been my savior since this back issue. I'm still, for some reason, able to play in the sand. So I just be out there like a little kid diving around.
Be out there.
Look, try to get there. As soon as you said back issue, she's
yeah.
like, I'm out there.
It's so fun.
I
It's
love
so
beach
fun.
volleyball. I love volleyball.
It's so fun.
Do you play with a team or?
Yeah, well, I used to put some teams together. Now I kind of like just going out to South Mission and playing in the pickup courts out there.
Okay.
We have a big group, San Diego Adventures. Shout out to them, Olivia and Victor. They've started this thing, and it's amazing. It's grown to I don't even know how many people. But yeah, so there's like a rotation of folks that come out and we play.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Gotta get down there.
Yeah.
You know it's
Oh,
live
yeah.
down there in South Mission.
Yeah.
It's true. What do you guys do after you play? That's all important.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, you know
Is
what?
there drinks? Is there happy hour? Is there food?
gotta be an agenda afterwards.
Yeah, I wish we participated in that. We usually every other weekend we gotta go pick up our daughter from dad in El Centro. So then that's usually our steez every other weekend. The other weekends when we don't she comes, sometimes we'll get food, sometimes not. Yeah. Laundry, that's my laundry day. I'm in charge of laundry, so I'll be trying to get home and do laundry.
Cheers to that.
We just did a podcast on chores.
Chores, yeah.
And I do not do laundry, so cheers to that.
Laundry is my thing.
Yeah.
It's like I love it. That's how I don't mind it until I outsourced it. So the whole podcast was me outsourcing laundry.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So the housekeeper takes care of the laundry now.
Yeah, that's
Which
what's
she's we
He's
still
just
working
picky
on it.
about the laundry.
I am picky.
She does it.
I am picky.
Done.
I don't even like how she folded tank tops.
I'm like
tank top ain't folded.
I know. Look, I'm just saying. I got OCPD. You know, I got a little bit of the obsessive compulsive side. I'm like, it's funny when I was living in Ukraine doing this internship. The guy, my old babysitter that I was living with, he has like somebody who come and clean the house and stuff. That brother was never home, and so it was for the first. He was like, "Hey, just leave the clothes over there." I'm like, "What? Like they're gonna wash my underwear? That's weird, you know?" Yo, not only did she wash them, but have you ever had your underwear and socks ironed?
Oh,
that's impressive. See, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Don't start it. Don't start it.
Yo, there was creases on the side of my boxer briefs. I said, what? I put them on. I'm like, man, these are...
It just feels bad.
Yeah. I could get used to this.
The level of confidence that you have with iron socks and underwear. It just puts you in a different momentum.
Oh, straight up. To know your drawers ain't wrinkled.
That's like having the red drawers underneath. Like, how?
Exactly.
It's going down.
You can judge a man by his... Right, you know what? They're either red or ironed. That dude has gusto.
Yeah, straight gusto.
Either way, watch out. Watch out. What are some of your dreams?
Now, one of my new dreams is to write a book, so I've been working on that. And so that's pretty cool. I've never been one to 5-year, 10-year plan type thing, just fly by the seat of my iron drawers. But that is a dream. My other dream, and it's always been my dream, is to have a biological child. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You know, I just turned 40, you know, so to me, supposedly our clocks ain't ticking the same, but still, I'm like, man, my back hurt, you know what I'm saying? But that would be amazing, especially being adopted.
Carlos, there's men who have babies when they're 70. So
I know. I don't want to be a first time.
I understand.
Well,
that
I wouldn't
part,
be first time, but still.
Yeah. But there's still time.
Yeah, there is. There is.
Keep hope alive. It's definitely
for women. And I've said there's our clocks. Those are the ones that knock loud. You know, everywhere. There's an end to ours. You know.
Yeah.
Them eggs get old too, right? So it's like we can even still have a kid, but it's right. Right.
Like you said, you can freeze them. You freeze them up.
You gotta freeze them when you're young, though.
Yeah. Hopefully, they don't get freezer burned.
Whatever, you know how science is.
Right.
It's obviously better than evolution.
Yeah.
because they duplicated. Evolution stopped for some reason.
That's so true, right?
This is true.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So Carlos is you talked about a lot of things that you got going on. My brother, can we talk about how, because we had an interesting conversation, related to coffee, how you got into the concept of the Dojo Cafe, because like everything else you said, it kind of fell in your lap, and you didn't go into social work. It just happened, and then you fell in love with it. Same thing, like we had a conversation, the way you got into coffee, it was like I was in class, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah. Big shout out to my nephew. He's the guy that I started the shoe business with, Freshly Laced. And so it was cool. He's always been trying to get me to go into business. He's like, man, you make a killing, but I just don't care about money like that. And so it's never been a focal point, except for when you ain't got it, right? Because then you're like, shit, it's stressful.
Like you said, then the grind is like, is it worth it?
Yeah,
Kanye said it best, right? Having money is not a problem. Not having it is.
It really is.
It's a fact.
And so, he got me into this program called Startup Leadership Program, and I went in there thinking, oh, let me learn about business, and they had me reading books. There's a kid in there that was 3D printing rocket engines, and so I was like, what the hell? What am I? I'm in the wrong place. I didn't know any of the vocabulary, the terminology, nothing. So I'm reading a book a week, just studying, because I took it serious, right?
Yeah.
I knew that there was something we could learn from business that could help in nonprofits. Well, at least that's what I believed then, right? I still believe it now, but I think there just needs to be a blending of the two.
Real quick,
at the end of the day.
So when you was in that class and you told, because 3D rocket, right? Was there any kind of intimidation, like?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like I can't believe I don't make it, or some imposter syndrome.
Oh, 100%.
Sure, yeah.
It was worse than imposter syndrome. It was like I didn't even at least as an imposter, you're still trying to like be an imposter, right? I just went, I'm in the wrong place. You know, I just was like, this is just, there's no way I'm going to make it through this because I had no idea what they were talking about. And they were talking about, you know, VC, venture capitalists. They're talking about exits, you know, for, you know, how you start a seed funding around Series A, B. I'm like, what? Huh? You know, and so I'm like, damn, I think I'm in the wrong place. I don't know what I have to offer. And it didn't help that the first, when we had to share what our ideas were the first day, all these people had apps and all these, you know, food delivery business, all these things, the 3D printed rocket engines, and who had already raised millions. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm trying to start a website that could crowdsource problems in underserved communities. So like, let's say a bunch of single moms who want to start working, but they can't because they don't have childcare. Well, this website would help them find each other, and then they could start like a babysitting club. And then, you know, you babysit 2 days and you get to work 5, right? And it would just rotate and this and that. And so when I said that, the room was like crickets. You know what I'm saying? Whereas there's no money in it.
No money.
My business idea had no monetary,
but it served the purpose.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah,
like,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, because you got to be from that. You got to be from that to understand how that would work. Right?
Yeah,
and they nobody in the room was from that.
They were like, if we get the nanny.
Yeah. So I was just like, dang. And so what ended up happening was at the end of that day, I raised my hand and I remember saying, look, you all are trying to make $1 million. I'm trying to change 1 million lives. There's something in my world of nonprofits that I can learn from you, and my challenge is to learn that. I said, but I'm going to challenge you to teach me, somebody who knows nothing about business, teach me what you think is, you try to help bridge the gap with me, right? I'm going to teach you about some nonprofit things. You teach me about business and how, where there's parallels or what we can learn from one another. And it became like not only just the educators in the program, but even the other participants, man, they would help me out. Like they'd pull me to the side and be like, okay, look, wait, hold on. You got to think about this, or this is how this is going, or this is what I'm doing in my business. You've spoken about how you wanted to do this. What if we partnered in this way, right? Or how could you use this technology that I didn't know about?
It became a mastermind.
Yeah, it was really, that was one of the pivotal moments in my life. And it was dope. And so, yeah, my business model sucked. You know, that website, it wasn't. So a week before the pitch competition, I was like, oh, I'm out. There's no way
That was your only idea.
Yeah, that was my only idea. You know, and it was like a little idea. The rest of the time, for 6 months, I just spent learning. I barely was working on the idea. I was just trying to hang on to the knowledge. And so then this woman pulled me aside, was like, look, people of color and women only get 1% of like entrepreneurship investment. You know what I'm saying? It's $9.5 billion a year, right?
And
market
1% goes
1%.
to entrepreneur women and minorities.
Yes, that's what she told me. She's like, so when are you ever going to get to pitch to millionaires? Share an idea. And she's like, just come up with something. I know you got something else in there. And so I went to the coffee shop with my boy T, and I was like, I got to pivot. He's like, what's that mean? He was just like me, right? I was like, oh, that means, you know, I got to come up with a different idea. Actually, I didn't even pivot. I just scratched it. And then, and he's like, well, we've always wanted to open a coffee shop. And it just...
That was it.
Yeah. I walked outside and it was as though all the work that I had done in the different nonprofits, plus what I had just learned, it like culminated in my head into, oh, well, we could do this thing. And I had zero intention on following through with it. Mm-hmm. And so we came up with the dojo in 6 days and did the outline. And then luckily I went like 20 something. I was like the 20 something person to pitch. And the other people got destroyed. And so I was making notes and edits.
Good to wait.
Yeah. Oh, I was changing it. You know what I'm saying? And then I went up there and I changed it so much that I just had to go up there and wing it. Seriously, I had changed the whole thing. So I would just like glance, like, what's that on this thing? You know, and then I would just start talking. And then I remember this dude stood up and he was just like, I could see, you know how we had to, you know, oh, could we like enter into this market, you know, like against Starbucks and stuff. He's like, I could see this model, because we had this whole model, like a nationwide model of the dojos. He's like, I could see this eating into Starbucks. And I'm like, okay. He's like, so what kind of business is this? I'm like, what do you mean it's a coffee shop? He's like, no, is it a lifestyle business or, would you want to exit? And I remember saying, well, look, if somebody wanted to buy the business, that means I'm being successful. And if I'm successful, that means I'm impacting lives in underserved communities, and underserved communities are being sold out on enough. So I wouldn't sell. And he ended up investing later on. And so it was that, again, it was just the weirdest situation, because I had no intention on doing it, pitched this thing, and then I kept running into different people, kept asking me ideas. So then I would just like play with the idea and play with it and play with it. And next thing you know, we raised money on Indiegogo. And
see, that's pretty dope. Like you wasn't trying to raise money, but now you went from having zero experience and going into a business class to now raising money, creating partnerships, having an investor, creating a business model, and then actually executing on that business model.
Yeah.
And we're in the same boat when it comes to putting coffee shops in underserved community. And we've had a lot of conversations with people. They always say, the first thing people say, why'd you put it here? Did you come across that?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah. And it's like, well, why not?
Right.
Because coffee is a luxury. And we get that, yes, right? To spend $6-7 on a cup of coffee, absolutely. Magic Johnson brought Starbucks to the hood.
Yep.
Right.
True.
And that opened up the eyes. We always talk about all the time, we didn't grow up in a neighborhood that had a cafe. Tell me about the people that showed up to 44th Street and El Cajon Boulevard. Like what kind of relationships was built for? Because that was another conversation we had about where you are today was based, it's like all of those relationships manifested into now living your dream. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I worked for free I accrued debt, right, for 3 years, 3 to 5 years.
True entrepreneur.
Yeah, I didn't make a single dime, but the relationships I made, like Jay-Z, your net worth is your net worth. I honestly could probably try anything right now. I'm not going to, because I've learned you try stuff, it takes up all your time. But I could, right? There's people in the corner, homeless people, whether it was homeless people or youth. I remember this one kid, while we were still building the dojo, walked by with his guitar. Hoover, it was 2 blocks from Hoover, and this kid walked by. I'm like, hey, you play the guitar? He was like, yeah. And I was like, cool, play me something. He's like, nah, I'm on my way to practice. I ain't got time. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, you're in a band? He's like, yeah, it's a bunch of high school kids and stuff like that. I said, hey, man, we're going to have an opening. Why don't you come back at some point and play some of your songs? And so he came back and played some songs. And I was like, hey, you guys could kick it here, da-da-da-da-da. And he ended up playing at our opening like ceremony thing, like grand opening. Dope. And then he played again at our 1 year anniversary. We actually paid them for their first performance. And it's just, I still get texts from him, how you doing, this and that. Teachers, politicians, you name it, just everybody. We met everybody at the Dojo Cafe. It was when I was a monk living on this little temple.
You've been everywhere. I was like, just gonna throw it out there.
We're not gonna overlook the Ukraine. You lived in Ukraine, right? We got to go back to that.
Oh man! But having ADHD, I've never been able to sit still. And when I was at this temple, I learned to sit my ass still, and which for the first time in my life. And time kind of stopped for me in a way that that was new. I was like, oh, snaps. There's actually seconds in a minute, and there's minutes in an hour. You know what I mean? And I was able to appreciate those. Well, at the dojo, almost every day that I was there from 6 in the morning to sometimes 2:30 in the morning, right? It was as though I lived like 2 lifetimes. There would be multiple moments in each day because I was engaged with one-on-one. Luckily, we were kind of slow. So I would have 20-minute conversations with every damn customer, And so then 2 o'clock would come around. I'm like, what's today? And they're like, it's Monday. I'm like, damn. I feel so different. I feel like I've learned so much from the different people that came through. It was honestly, it was like magic. And people would talk about that. They're like, the energy here is different. And I'm like, it is. Time slows down. and you just were really present in the moment. And each time I did that, it was like I would die and then be reborn with the next conversation or the next event or whatever. And so it was, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's impressive. That's a great way to look at it. That's a great way to look at it. Hey, you want to touch on Ukraine?
No, you have to touch on Ukraine.
No, I mean, do we want to go back there? How'd you end up in Ukraine?
So I had a babysitter who's, it's like their family, a bunch of brothers and sisters. They're just amazing people. And one of them went off and joined the Peace Corps. And I really idolized this cat. And still do. I mean, and I've never asked him why he brought it up, but I know all I was doing was partying. Like, I was a big party animal. You know, I got out of college, I was bartending, and he would come back every year from some country, you know, and he ended up a chief of mission for the International Organization of Migration, and so he always had these like crazy ass jobs where I'm like, dude, you meet the presidents of these countries and working on all this stuff. Well, I think he was just like, damn, you just getting drunk all the time and faded. So I had no direction, right? Like most of my life I've had no direction. And I think he recognized, oh, shoot, you know, you could have no direction for forever. And if you're bartending and drinking every day and doing drugs, like that's what good's gonna come from that? You ain't even buying lotto tickets, right. You know? And so he offered me an internship in Ukraine, and so I didn't know where Ukraine was. Like, I wasn't very studious in school. Like, I looked at everything was like a game. What's the least amount of work that I could do to get a B? Yeah. You know? And if I got a C out, whatever. If I got an A, it'd be like, cool, you know? And so my dad, he was just like, I think you should take the opportunity. And I was like, man, it's just expensive. He's like, I'll pay for half the ticket. And I said, oh, my dad never come out the pocket. So I said, if this is one of the opportunities that my dad is like willing to back, how do I not, you know? And so my friend was stationed in Aviano, Italy, my best friend at the time. So I was like, oh, okay, not knowing geography. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Italy first and then Ukraine. That was... Oh, man. I call it my growth trip. So I ended up out there working for the International Organization of Migration on anti-human trafficking efforts. And, you know, I worked on different projects. And then he had me travel with some other interns and employees to Crimea and Odessa. And he took me to cow farms. And he really showed me he showed me parts of America and how we operate in other countries that we're just unaware of, right? And I feel like I learned more I was gone for a total like 6-7 months. I learned more in those 7 months than at any other like cumulative time in my life. I almost got killed by I had to run by these mafia. It was just a wild story, but in a club, you know,
was a woman involved?
Yeah, this girl was like, hey, you know, she's like, oh, you know, let's dance. And then some mafia guys got up, and it was my boy came over. He's like, you need to run. But I ran through the streets of Ukraine in the middle of the night, throwing up. I somehow made it back to the condo, but yeah, the police threatened my life there. I got caught with no passport. I changed jackets at the last minute, and my cell phone died. And I got caught on this little island, Heather Park, and these cops shook me down for some money with a dog.
That's international. Cops will shake you.
Yeah.
You know, I almost wish American cops was like that.
No.
I would rather
way
pay.
More they are like that.
I'd rather pay than get shot.
I'd rather say, can we work this out right now?
Right.
I would say the ones that would probably shoot you will take money too. There's those cops. I'm sure you could just grease their little palms and they'll be fine. But that's probably the problem.
No, they take your money and shoot you.
they just got a bad rap.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
And then those that would take money are just uber greedy. They want to be they want to be kingpins, right? So it's like 17,000. It's like what?
I got $50 on me. 17,000.
In Mexico, $50 is okay.
Hey, I never go to Mexico without some cash in my sock.
Exactly.
That's the truth. They will stop you.
It's funny that you bring up, was it a woman involved?
I mean, you know, it's just
it's always,
yeah, it's always.
We talk about that. Like women is always in the middle of most
of
things.
some things.
It's always most things.
Like you say, a woman, it's usually the woman's body that a male wants.
1,000%. Yeah, because we used to talk about coffee, and the reason why coffee has made it to certain places in Europe specifically, because it has something to do with a woman.
Yeah,
like
a woman that she hid it in her breast.
Yeah,
a man that she was cheating with, one of the soldiers, told her to go and get it, and then she went and got it, and then that's how it got to the next place. It's crazy. It's like,
it's crazy, the story. It's like, what?
Yeah,
she was cheating.
Yeah,
and it wasn't like a low budget. Right. Like she was, you know,
she was like married to like the king.
Yeah, it's like she was up there somewhere cheating.
Don't quote our story, but we have the.
You'll find it somewhere.
Yeah. Google it, but we got you get the gist. You get the gist. She was cheating, and then he told her, "Hey, go get this flower from your husband," right?
Women will make you do some crazy things.
Men will make women do some crazy things too, right? Because she had no business going to do that. She should have kept her little flower. That's the problem, women. Keep your flower to yourself and with your husband. Don't be giving up the goods.
You gotta use your discernment.
Yeah.
I mean,
and if she did it, we would have coffee all over the world, right? So I mean, then again, hey.
One love.
God bless that flower.
Hey, you know.
That's a fact. That is a fact. So you told about being a monk for a hot second. So we're headed to Bali in a few days. And one of the things that I hope we have the opportunity is to do some Tai Chi while we're there. You know, definitely a lot of meditation.
Yeah, or we're going to Thailand, so when we go to Thailand, we're going to meditate too. Okay. With the Buddhists.
We gonna do that with the big Buddha in Thailand. All right, because everybody keeps saying like, so you're going to Thailand? Where are you going? I'm reluctant to say Phuket. Because people,
don't be reluctant. I mean, I can see why.
Why?
I went. Phuket's cool. You know what I'm saying? See, ping pongs, razor blades. You know.
I feel like you tricked me.
Exactly.
I feel like you tricked me.
No.
When we get there, you're gonna be like, oh, I thought it was a nice place where you just relax.
I would trick you if
you go to Fifi Island from there. PP Island, PHI, I think it's Fifi. I don't know how it.
Right from that.
So I sound ignorant.
We get on there. We in the same boat because like, people are like, oh, how you know so much? I don't know shit. The only thing I know is from my experiences.
Right. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. That's all I know.
But when we get there, I hope nobody says Tommy.
Oh. Hope they don't say, Tommy, I'm your kid.
No, you definitely got to worry about that.
Okay, you sure?
So the last time I was there, I was in the military. I was 19 years old.
And he don't remember anything else. That's all. That's where the story ends.
That's why she said, "You sure?"
Yeah. You sure? I'm 41 years old now, right? So over 20 years.
Do you wear a different cologne?
No, you wear the same.
I wear the same cologne.
You're in
That's
trouble.
A great question.
You are in trouble.
That's a very good
Somebody's
question.
gonna walk by, Tommy. I hope there's a camera because we're gonna see a smooth cross.
So
we practice nonviolence.
If it's the one girl that took my hat that one time, that's like she.
Look,
she probably my age.
Oh
now.
man, I can't.
That's a great question.
I can't. It is because he hangs his hat on his smell. Like, I've been wearing this smell since I was 18 years old.
Oh, dang!
I've been wearing the same cologne since high school. Yes.
So yep.
You in trouble, dog.
That's funny.
If there is trouble and it's there, you running into it.
That's okay. I'll bring him home.
In a body bag.
Life just changed, baby. Okay, here we go.
I'm the real Tommy Walker III. Amari would be pissed. My son would be pissed. But no.
That's funny.
That's funny. You're good. You're a good guy.
You don't have to worry about that.
You Donald Trump?
You're a good guy.
It's the Trump hands.
Yeah,
you don't worry about that.
He's a good guy now.
He is. He was then. It was a long time ago. Long time ago. Long time.
19 years ago, I was too afraid. So I definitely would have done nothing crazy.
Okay.
I was way too much afraid. I had to make sure I got back on the boat.
Yeah.
I wasn't late.
Right.
And I made sure I came back with my buddy. So you was how long was you a monk?
Only 9 days.
9 days.
Okay.
Only 9 days.
You know, I will say it was hard.
Meditate for 5 minutes.
Right. I couldn't either. And that was a problem. Actually, I couldn't even sit still. It hurt. I was shedding tears just during the ceremony. You have to sit on your knees for 2 hours or whatever. It was televised because the temple I was at was getting consecrated, and I didn't know what that meant, but they had these big balls that they were covering in gold flakes, and then it's like this whole so there's like 100-something monks from all around the world, and I was on some TV in Thailand, some TV station and stuff, and because I was the oldest, like, new person going through this thing, so it was me and then my best friend and who's a little younger, and then it was like 5 kids from 12 to like 4. So then I was in charge of that because it's like seniority, even though I didn't know the language and I didn't know anything about the culture, and so it was a lot. So I couldn't fail, right? So I had to go first during the ceremony to do all these things. Well, after whatever 2 hours sitting there, shedding tears, trying to wipe them, I had to stand up and do this thing, and I took a step, and my leg like gave out, and it was like, Carlos, you better not fall over. Like, what? I don't know what kept me up, but it was an interesting 9 days. So sitting there and meditating, I would start laughing, which was very inappropriate because it was just like I was laughing because I was saying these, like, reciting these chants, and I didn't know. And I was in so much pain that I was just laughing because I was like, I'm like wiggling around. It was me and the 4-year-old. We was like the same, just wiggly. It was all bad.
That's funny. What was my first experience?
Oh gosh, you're talking about yoga?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I was so mad. Oh my God. I'm like, okay, come on, babe. We're gonna zen out. And it was like the first breath. It was like taking a nice deep breath in, and it was an older man next to us. And then blow it out. And the older man was like, and Tommy was like,
I fucking die laugh, bro.
I was like, really, babe? Really? Everyone's like, trying not to look out of it. And then we do it again. Starts cracking out. I'm like, let's go.
We had to leave.
Let's go.
Oh, no.
It was like the bad kid.
You want to know why she had you leave? Is because somebody probably during down dog or whatever would have farted, and then you would just, and then
I really would have.
Yeah, right. So she's like, let's just.
So that was my first yoga experience.
Yeah,
my very first, like, again, like we from the same, you know what I mean, mindset. Like everything's a box. Our parents, they did what they did. They did well.
Right.
And I just didn't have exposure. And Daneyel says, let's go to yoga. I'm like, all right, let's go to yoga. That sounds cool, I guess. And they start breathing. And I was like, this is hilarious. Now, of course, 20 years later,
you enjoy that breath.
I enjoy that breath. That breath is
you're
life.
You're the man. You're the man.
I will.
You're the one snickering at people like.
I will look
at somebody.
I mean, exactly. I will look at you like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, right. I was you one day.
You do not deserve to be in this room right now. That's exactly how it is. That's funny. So it's funny because our conversation today went all over the place.
Yeah, it was supposed to be about coffee and tea. We have all kind of facts.
No.
We have all kind of things to talk about. But this is great.
Yeah,
this is great.
See, this is why life and shit is so cool, right? It's like we talk about everything from social work to entrepreneurship to bubble guts.
A little bit of coffee.
Yeah, we hang at it here and there, right? But I have to understand how, because the one thing is, as we close it up, you went from being in a class that you didn't know anything, and you was intimidated, and we talked about the imposter syndrome. And, we kind of skipped over, you got an investor to help you open up, dojo. You put your own money in. Your partner team put money in. There's a lot of things that happen. And then eventually, you said, like a true entrepreneur, you didn't make any money on it for 3 years, right? 4 years that
5
you guys
years.
were, 5 years that you guys were in business. But then you sold for a profit.
Little one. Like as much as this. Hey,
you sold for
a dollar
profit.
is a dollar.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the impressive part of it. Still, your intentions was never about the money.
Yeah.
Your intentions was for the community. Your intentions was for the opportunities, the relationships that you built. And you were rewarded for that in multiple ways, not just in money, but in a lot of different ways. People call you Smiles because of how you live, the things that you think about, your philosophies, the processes. You have a class now that you created. So I just wanted to sum it up because the class that you created, it's impressive. And now I want to touch on that before, but before we go,
right?
Because San Diego State University is not an average school. Like that's huge. Yeah. Cuyamaca College is so you're in community college and you're in one of the well-known universities in the country. Shout out to Kawhi Leonard, right?
Right.
So just real quick, the class that you created and the philosophies that you teach, because to me that's the biggest thing that people could take away from this episode is your mindset, the way you think, and the hacks. Because we talked about your book and making sure that people think. That's the thing, right? People got to think.
Yeah. So purpose, perspective, and human connection is the title of the class, and the reason why I titled it that was because at the end of the day, whether it's my social work ventures or in business, like I believe in, triple bottom lines and whatnot, it's like profit is just one measure of a successful business. At the end of the day, I was tasked with creating a class where you could have students in the honors college, you could have students from any major, right? And so I was like, well, so I have the opportunity to speak to 35 whatever students from any major. If by the end of the semester, if they think differently and take whatever it is that my philosophy is into their prospective workforce, right? And if they spread that, like, how could the world be better? And so, purpose, right? There's several different books on purpose, like Man's Search for Meaning or The Choice or, any number of books. At the end of the day, I guess even if you're religious, at some point you got to kind of like decide on what your purpose is, whether it's you're deciding because you believe that this was destined for you, or you're deciding because you're like, oh, I recognize I have different opportunities, and so maybe I need to choose one or two or three or four, right? I don't believe that there's only one purpose in any person's life. But doing work or living a life with purpose, generally speaking, leads to more happiness, right? Happy moments, right? More smiles. Perspective. That's all we have. That's all we have control over. Now, our perspective is generally like handed to us by our parents, or now with social media,
1,000% experiences.
Exactly. So, right. So our perspective is shaped. But if we stop and recognize that, we have the ability to, like people said, right? The glass is half full, and they think that's like the dumbest thing. It's like, wait, but I think people are missing the fact that you have the choice to say it's half empty and feel bad about that, or it's half full and feel good about it.
Right.
And one thing that I learned while I was a monk was the energy that we bring into the current moment then has an impact on the next moment. And I'm talking about moment to moment, right? When you're being present. So if I'm looking at it like this is half full and that makes me feel better, I might respond to your next question or to the next look, or give something the benefit of the doubt in a more positive light than if I'm looking at it half empty, and then I might be like, oh, well, I'm also hungry, and so on and so forth, right?
This is true.
And so our perspective, everything could change with a change of perspective.
1,000%.
But we don't. The philosophy that I live is we don't often recognize we are the only ones with the power to change that, right? And life, most people in life don't give other people the permission to change their perspective on things. Like, I don't know that my parents ever said, hey, you have the permission to look at things however you want to. I know that they meant well, right? They're activists and hippies and all this stuff, but I never necessarily got that permission. And I know society doesn't give us the permission, right? We got to chase the Joneses, or the Kardashians, whoever, right? Yeah. And so
they are.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And so perspective, I have my students think about, okay, whether you're going into accounting or whatever, right? If accounting is your I don't know that doing math is your purpose, but whatever job you go into, how is that in alignment with your purpose, right? And part of that is required to understand that you could change your perspective so that you can figure out, right? Or just don't take the job if it's not in alignment, and which I've quit so many jobs. I quit a job after 1 8-hour shift. It was like, you could keep that check. It just ain't for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. My gym, right? Like I'm not gonna be a DJ for these little gymnastic classes for 5-year-olds. This is not my business, right? I was gonna get sick of the songs. I already knew it. I love music too much to be on repeat. And so you could quit, right? That's just a perspective. Some people are like, you can never quit a job. So why not? Why not, right? Okay. Take what you could get from that job, whether it's a knowledge, the education, and then move to the next thing if it's not in alignment.
Exactly.
Right?
Level up, yep.
Yeah, so that's perspective. And then human connection. If we're not doing it for humanity's sake, then what are we doing it for, right? Like, what's that movie with Will Smith, I Am Legend? Is that the one where he's the last survivor?
I'm about to say, when he's by himself?
Yeah, right? Like, or so if you were the only human on this planet, would you still post on Instagram?
No purpose.
Right. And so I was thinking, okay, what if I have somebody that's going to go build like AI software, or is going to go work with like graphic design, or is going to go be a journalist, or is going to go make 3D print rocket engines, right? If that's one of my future students. Well, if you're not doing it with the concept of human connection, at least part of that's what, like, we need to be, don't just make a widget to make a widget. It needs to serve its purpose. It needs to somehow better humanity or make things easier and hopefully not oppress. If we could hold those three things as like a foundational framework for what everything that we do and every interaction that we have, I figure, well, how would the world not be better, right? And so we're all hot air balloons just trying to soar, right? But our parents, unfortunately, even me as a parent, I've done this to kids. They tie us down with different sandbags, right? And ropes. Social norms tie us down, right? Back when I used to have cornrows and living in Long Beach, I'd watch not be allowed into the club. That could be another string tying me down, right? Because then I had self-doubt and thinking like, oh, this and that.
True.
We need to cut those strings, but we don't even think we have the permission or the utility, the knives, the utensils to cut these damn cords. And so that's the whole purpose of the class, is to have people come into this class and I get them to be present and well, that's my intent anyways, and then start redefining things for themselves. And I do that through just a series of questions and exercises. Nothing about how I live is prescriptive. I try not to use the word should at all costs, because that just implies judgment. And it's just like, well, what is it that you think you want to do? And that's okay. Oh, well, but I can't. Says who? Right? Like, who says who? Have you tried it? At least try it out. I love brownies, and the next brownie is somewhere on this planet, and I'm gonna keep trying things until I, you know what I'm saying, find the next. And so that's it. But people think, oh, I need to eat the same thing at every restaurant.
Yeah,
that's like,
that's a fact. That is a fact. That's a fucking great way to put it all together.
It is.
And I wish, even when I went through college, I had a class like that. It would have
opened your eyes. Oh my gosh.
The trajectory would have been quicker, right?
Oh man.
Shout out to Uncle Charlie. Today's his birthday.
Yeah, shout out. Love you.
And heavenly birthday to Uncle Charlie. And one thing he always say to me whenever we got together was, if I would have known then what I know now, right?
Yeah.
So that's always impressive.
Yeah. No, on that note, I'm good, you guys. It's been a great session. I appreciate you, your knowledge. This is the first time you and I have actually sat and had a conversation. I enjoyed it, and I was very grateful for it. And you've shared so much with me that I didn't even know it was in you, and that's amazing. So thank you for that.
Carlos, I love you, brother. I appreciate our friendship. I'm glad. So literally, the way the universe works is always on purpose. And the fact that we were in the same space at the same time and to reconnect, I mean, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years since we've seen each other. So now that we're connected, it will never take that long again. Where can the people find you? What should they look for? Is the class available online? If not, we want to work. We want to try and make it online. We want to like something like that needs to be out in the masses. Yeah. So how can people get in contact with you? How can they keep in touch with you? All that.
Yeah, Stay Smiling Lyfe. This little the happy face logo. That's the lifestyle brand. So whether you spell smiling with a G or without, it's without, but we bought, Stay Smiling Lyfe because people always put the G in there. But you could Stay Smiling Lyfe without the G on Instagram, Facebook. We have a website. And then aside from that, like the class isn't online. The book is basically going to be a version of the class. My students are the ones who convinced me to write this book. I don't consider myself an author. I hope my teachers, when elementary school, I used to get my papers back. So I have PTSD from red ink on papers because they were so bad. My dad actually wouldn't even help me like read over my papers until I had to rewrite them like 3-4 times because he's like, they're just so bad that I'd have to write the whole paper. So English is not my strong suit, but I've definitely learned to write like I speak. That's what his advice always was. So the book is going to be some version of that, and we would love to make a class. Don't necessarily know how, but that's no excuse these days, you know what I mean? So I'm already knowing that it's just a matter of time.
Exactly. Carlos McCray, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lyfe and Shyt.
Lyfe and Shyt.
I love you, girl.
Love you,
baby. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.